Myself, P. Isarabalan, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Rogiri College of Engineering and Technology. Today's topic is friction. Definition of friction: the opposing force which act in the opposite direction of the movement of the upper body is called friction. And types of friction: generally we classify the friction in two categories: static friction and dynamic friction. Static friction: when the body is in rest condition, then the friction force exerted by the body is called static friction. Dynamic friction: when the body is in moving condition, then the friction force exerted by the body is called the dynamic friction. Dynamic friction is also classified into three categories: sliding friction, rolling friction, and pivot friction. First one, sliding friction. When a body sliding over another body, then the friction force exerted by the body is called sliding friction. Next one is rolling friction. A body which has ball or roller rolls on the another body, then the friction force exerted by the second body and the first body is called rolling friction. And pivot friction: the friction force experienced by a body due to the motion of rotation, as in case of footstep bearing. Other type of friction: dry friction. First, friction between two unlubricated or dry surface. The lubricated friction: the friction between two lubricated surface. The lubricated friction can also be classified into two categories: greasy friction, when there is a very thin layer of lubricant between the surface, and fluid friction, when we are introducing a thick layer of lubricant between two moving surfaces. Where the friction is desirable during walking on the road and writing on the paper, to hold or groping something. That is the friction force and shearing reaction force diagram. When the where friction is not desirable during walking, we have to put extra effort. Due to friction, the life of the machine part reduced. It is not required in mechanical parts where two parts of the machine meet. Limiting friction force: the maximum value of the friction force at which the body resting on the another body start to slide. If limiting friction before is force is F and applied force is P, the F is less than P, the no motion between two bodies. F is equal to P, no motion between bodies. F is equal to P, motion will be there. Static friction: when friction occurs between two bodies which are not in motion, then the friction is known as the static friction, and it is represented by mu s. It is given by F maximum is equal to mu s into Fn. The dynamic friction: when the friction occurs between two bodies which have relative motion to each other, then the friction is known as the dynamic friction, and it is represented by a mu or mu d. F maximum is equal to mu star in the F1. Law of dynamic friction: first one, the direction of the friction force will be opposite to the direction of motion of the body, and the ratio of the dynamic frictions to the normal reaction is a constant. That one, as we increase the speed of the moving body, then the friction force decrease. Law of solid friction: the force of friction is dependent on the material of the surface but independent on the relative velocity of the sliding body and the area of contact surface. The friction force directly proportional to the normal reaction force. Law of solid friction. The force of friction is dependent on the material of the surface but independent on the relative velocity of the sliding body area of contact surface. The friction force directly proportional to the normal reaction force. The law of fluid friction. The friction force is different for different lubricants. The friction force is independent on the load as well as substances of the bearing surface. The friction force reduces with the increasing in the temperature of the lubricant. Thank you.